America's never been more divided, never been more polarized.
If you are fed up with the anger, with the bitterness, with the hatred, with the rage, then come together as Texans.
This is the most important election in my lifetime, and it's not because I'm on the ballot. I'm on the ballot because it's the most important election of our lifetime.
Many elections come down to just a handful of votes. Every vote's going to count in this election.
We don't care if you're a Republican, a Democrat, an independent. All we care is that you're here and that you can work together, not against anyone, but for a better, stronger future for this country.
That is Texas. We defend freedom. We defend the Constitution. And we defend the United States of America.
A historic night in the elections and the race we were watching most in Texas. It was a close one. Good evening. I'm Len Cannon.
And I am Mia Grady. The entire nation is watching the results in Texas, which are still coming in. And we have crews all over the state with live team coverage of the big races.
Yeah, the sizzler, the hottest race on the ticket. Republican Senator Ted Cruz and a Democratic challenger, Congressman Beto O'Rourke. This one was tight from the moment the first numbers trickled in. But Ted Cruz is going back to Washington, squeaking by 3 percentage points, declared the winner by CBS tonight, 51 to 48%.
With that said, let's kick things off with Jason Miles at Cruz's watch party in the Galleria. Jason.
Yeah, a major party here tonight, folks. Radio talk show host Michael Berry is at the podium right now, but we expect Senator Ted Cruz to take that stage in the next few minutes. Standing in front of that big Texas flag and celebrating victory tonight over challenger Beto O'Rourke after obviously a very closely watched, heated campaign over the last few months. This crowd a little earlier was quite nervous looking at some of the early returns, but as the night progressed, as CBS News projected Ted Cruz the winner, as other media outlets did the same, you heard loud cheering as the different outlets announced this result, and I think we're getting close to the moment where Ted Cruz enters the room. We have arrived at that moment, and you should be looking at another camera shot of this room. I wouldn't dare to guess how many hundreds are here, but over the last hour or so, the crowd has gotten exponentially bigger. And here is Ted Cruz, preceded by his wife. I don't see his children at this point. Yes, I see the daughters there with him. You can imagine that Ted Cruz is very happy tonight. He'll be going back to the U.S. Senate for another 6-year term after defeating Beto O'Rourke. Let's listen in. I just saw him grab the microphone. Let's hear Senator Cruz on this election win.
God bless Texas. Tonight is a victory for the people of Texas. Tonight is a victory for all the men and women in this room and all the men and women across this state that poured your hearts, your passion, your time, your energy to rising to defend Texas. To every one of you, Heidi and I and the girls, we say thank you. Thank you. Texas saw something this year that we've never seen before. This election wasn't about me, and it wasn't about Beto O'Rourke. This election was a battle of ideas. It was a contest for who we are and what we believe. It was a contest, and the people of Texas decided this race. We traveled every part of the state, from East Texas to West Texas, from the Panhandle to the Valley. And the energy, the excitement we saw was incredible. Just a couple of weeks ago down in the valley, in Harlingen, 2,000 people coming out. In Mission, 2,000 people coming out. In El Paso, 2,000 people coming out. And what was truly amazing, at many of these events, we would ask, how many of you here are former Democrats? And we would see hands throughout the room, as we're seeing hands now, because Texas came together behind a common sense agenda of low taxes, low regulations, and lots of jobs. Securing the border and keeping our communities safe, and defending the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. And that is a common sense agenda that unites Texans from every part of the state. It was your hard work. This is a victory for the single mom who's been waiting tables, who suddenly sees her wages going up because the economy is booming. This is a victory for the oil field worker who sees now that the United States is the world's top producer of oil. This is a victory for all the kids who are seeing their parents. In the last 2 years, 4 million people have come off of food stamps. Stop and reflect for a moment the lives transformed. People who had been dependent on government for basic food needs now have jobs and get to come home carrying a bag of groceries. Get to come home and look at their kids and say, I'm providing for my family, and their kids get to look up at mom, look up at dad, and see the hope. This was an election about hope and about the future, and the people of Texas rendered a verdict that we want a future with more jobs and more security and more freedom. I want to take a moment also to thank my wife, Heidi, who is my best friend in the world and who, in the course of this campaign, shouldered responsibilities at work, at home, juggling 1,000 balls backwards on a unicycle.
Senator Ted Cruz winning tonight, going back to Washington. The incumbent senator, native Houstonian, talking to his wife there and his girls, 2 young daughters standing next to him tonight in the Galleria area.
Yeah, saying a victory for the people of Texas who rose to defend Texas. And now to Beto O'Rourke, considered the underdog from the beginning, who gave Cruz a run for his money but just came up short.
Yeah, about 3 percentage points. Marcelino Benito is in El Paso tonight, Rourke's hometown. Marcelino, folks, got to be sad tonight.
Guys, the music is still playing here, but I can tell you folks are not happy. They're disappointed. This is not the outcome any of the thousands of people that turned out to this ballpark tonight expected. The O'Rourke campaign always had an uphill battle. It had the energy, it had the fervor, it had some momentum behind the candidate, but they needed to turn that energy and enthusiasm into votes. And although they did with a strong early voting turnout performance, they weren't able to do it on Election Day. I just spoke a few minutes ago to some campaign surrogates of the O'Rourke campaign. They say they're obviously disappointed in tonight's results. It's not the outcome they wanted. It's not the outcome they truly believed would turn out tonight. But they say it is a positive sign that Texas is moving closer to being blue. They say what Beto O'Rourke was able to do in terms of stirring up enthusiasm with young voters is something that will propel Texas closer to that blue wave that they hope to see in a few years. We're still waiting on the candidate to come out and speak to his supporters. None of these people, the thousands that have gathered, are going to leave this auditorium until they hear from him. One more thing to mention, they kept repeating and chanting in the crowd, Beto for president, Beto for president. So this is likely not the last time we've heard of Beto O'Rourke in politics. Guys, back to you.
All right, Marcelino Benito out in El Paso tonight as we wait to hear from Beto O'Rourke. losing the Senate race. The District 7 congressional race pitting Republican incumbent John Culberson against Democrat Lizzie Fletcher. Culberson has held that seat for 17 years and looks like Fletcher may pull off an upset tonight. She's up by just 3 percentage points, and we're still waiting for all the numbers to come in. A close one, but Fletcher leading right now.
We are live with both candidates. Let's begin with Sherman Chow, north of Rice Village with Fletcher. Sherman?
Yeah, I tell you what, you can see behind me a packed house, and we think we will see the candidate in about 10 minutes. I'm sure she is eyeing those returns, as are the folks here. They are also keeping an eye on those national races. You'll hear periodic cheers go up when they see a Democrat leading in a race outside of Texas. You could feel Fletcher's confidence today. She felt like the polls did not accurately account for support from millennials, younger people, because they typically survey likely voters, which means first-time voters, infrequent voters may not have been included. Now, among her very young supporters is this teenager who's been volunteering 2 to 3 times a week since November. The young lady attends Fletcher's alma mater, St. John's.
It's the most important election I can remember in my lifetime, and it's not just because I'm on the ballot. It's the reason I'm on the ballot, and I think that people across our community feel that way, and I think we're going to see record numbers.
She feels like Fletcher's support of Planned Parenthood and pro-choice position particularly resonated with this 16-year-old. She'll be able to vote in 2 more years. Healthcare and flood control projects, probably the two largest issues for Fletcher in this campaign. We expect to see her in about 10 more minutes. The crowd here keeping an eye on those national races. Fair enough, I suppose, since the nation is also watching this race in the 7th Congressional District. Back to y'all.
Still waiting for that race to come to an end. Sherman, thank you. Let's check in with Larry Seward tonight.
He is in West Houston with Culberson's camp. Larry?
Yeah, John Culberson worked this room, and if he looks nervous, you really can't tell. We were with John yesterday, we were with him earlier today, and the representative still smiling, still excited, still confident, talking with his supporters here. And behind me, I don't know if you can still see, they cut the cake a short time ago. People are having cake here and still having a good time here at the watch party. Culberson telling us earlier that he believes the people of District 7 respect what he's done. They know what he's done to make lives better here in West Houston. Not just West Houston, but District 7. We're talking areas from West University to Barker Cypress and 290 out to Katy. He believes the 17 years of work in Congress, his appointment to the House Appropriations Committee to be able to get funding quickly after Hurricane Harvey to this area is something that voters told him got them to the polls. He saw, in his mind, heavy turnout in Republican strongholds. But again, the results right now not necessarily bearing that out, but his campaign certainly remains confident at this point. Lynn, Mia, back to you.
All right, Larry Seward there with Culberson's camp. Thank you, Larry. We'll continue to watch this race. As you know, if you voted, this ballot was a long one.
Sure was. So here's a quick look at some of the other top races, starting with the race for Harris County Judge. Ed Emmett in office since 2007. A challenge by political newcomer Lena Hidalgo, hoping to become the first woman and Latina judge in Harris County. You can see the numbers right there, 64% of the precincts reporting dead even. There are also 2 propositions on the ballot in Houston. First, Prop A, which ensures a fee collected through our water bills will go to rebuild Houston, a city program for drainage and street repairs, very important after the hurricane. And you can see overwhelming victory so far for Prop A.
But the more controversial of the 2 propositions is Prop B. This would give Houston firefighters a nearly 30% raise to bring their salaries to the same level as Houston police officers. Very controversial here with the mayor, Mayor Turner, but it looks like 59% have voted for Proposition B. Now, as mentioned, Mayor Sylvester Turner and the Firefighters Union have been at odds over this for years. The union says their salaries have only been raised by 3% since 2011, while HPD has gotten more than 30% in that same time. The mayor, visibly disappointed tonight, says the city simply cannot afford what the firefighters are demanding.
It does add an additional $100 million to the city's bottom line. And it is just on pay raises. Not on the fire trucks, not on the boots, the clothing, the equipment, just on pay raises.
We want to work not only with the citizens we serve, but we want to pave a brighter future, the best future possible for all of our brave Houston firefighters.
While the firefighters are happy about Prop B passing, Mayor Turner says it could lead to layoffs and budget cuts across the city.
We'll have to wait and see how that plays out. Now for a closer look at the bumpy start to Election Day. Let's show you from Air 11 some of the long lines out there at some of the busiest polling places, and some early morning delays at several locations actually led to a last-minute lawsuit to keep them open an extra hour in Harris County tonight.
Grace White joins us now. Grace, how often does something like this happen?
It certainly happened in the Houston area before, but not often. In fact, we checked court records and didn't find any other lawsuits in recent years in Harris County. Here's what happened today, though. 9 polling sites didn't open on time, one as late as 8:15 this morning. A lawsuit was filed by the Texas Civil Rights Project, and a judge granted their request. Here's a look at the map. You can see the 9 polls impacted are scattered across the Houston area. These locations stayed open until 8 o'clock tonight. And this is one of those sites, Marshall Middle School, just north of downtown. We met people there who had to leave before they were able to vote this morning, but came back tonight.
We just want to make sure that everybody is allowed to go in, vote for whoever they want to vote for, without having to go through too much hassle and too much grief, and be dissuaded.
An attorney for the Texas Civil Rights Project called this a win for voters. Their goal to make sure everyone who wanted to cast their ballots could. It's interesting to note it was complaints that came into a voter hotline that got this whole thing started. Len and Mia, back to you.
Got to make your voices heard, whether you're upset or you're happy. Let's take a look at the Texas governor's race now. Former Dallas County Sheriff Lupe Valdez, there on the left, tried to unseat Governor Greg Abbott.
But Abbott won with a comfortable lead. Here's a look at the results. 56% of Texans voted for Greg Abbott, while just 42% voted for Valdez. Those are just some of the top races we're watching, but you can watch all the race results. Scroll across the bottom of your screen throughout the newscast.
And we have much more ahead, including a shift in power in Washington.